We have Doug Bernauer from Radiant Nuclear in the studio. We're going to bring him in and get his breakdown on it because he's obviously been working in this industry for years and should be able to give us an update on what's happening. Thank you so much for joining the show, Doug. Been too long since I saw you. I think I saw you in DC last, but should be an exciting day. But can you give us your read and analysis on what's happening?
Yeah, it's unbelievably exciting. There's a whole lot of text. I had these fact sheets that came out, I think went to the media on all these executive orders. It's unbelievably exciting, but it's all coming in like right now. I think the actual official documents just got posted only minutes ago. So I haven't read.
So you're an expert. You're an expert is what you're saying.
Well, we really put you on the spot. But I mean, can you talk to me about a little bit of the history? First introduce yourself, what the company does, and then maybe we can build up to some of the maybe problems or areas for improvement that the industry has been asking for, and then we'll kind of dig into what's happening today.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm the CEO of Radiant, nuclear portable microreactor company. We're focused on mass production of 1 megawatt reactors. We'd like to see 50 of those per year, and they'd come off the factory line and then go out to the customer wherever they are, run for 5 years, and then come back and be refueled. Yep. So it's a very unique sort of model. And my background before that, I worked at SpaceX for 12 years. Worked on the first rocket with legs, amongst other really cool stuff for Elon, but eventually focused on nuclear. And it's a really unique model that we've been trying to work. And a normal reactor is about 1,000 megawatts. The thing we're working on is 1 megawatt. Mm-hmm. It's got to be road transportable. We're trying to make the nuclear power that people want, because the problem that we see with why we don't have all this nuclear technology today is really that there's not as many customers. But that is all completely turned around, in the past maybe just 2 years, right? With all these announcements of the big data center players coming in to buy nuclear, to restart old plants, to build new ones. And we've actually been fighting for a lot of regulatory reforms that we see as probably being necessary for our particular model, where you've got a factory that makes reactors, where you have assembly and you don't have any construction. And if you read the rules that are 50 years old, you hear about construction a whole lot. Yeah. And so it's not really focused on or talking about the right sort of thing.
So when we last spoke, you were working on the helium loop, going to test at a dome in Idaho. How are things going? What have been the most recent updates for Radiant?
Yeah, there's some unbelievable updates. Just a month ago, we were announced as one of just 5 companies who will get access to fuel from the Department of Energy. Mm-hmm. Something we've been working on for a very long time. It's unbelievably exciting. When I started the company back in 2020, we said we would do a critical test with a reactor at full scale in 2026. We are on target to do that. And really, because of that announcement and the support that we're getting from federal government. Another change just recently, we've been working through a process they have at the national labs. We're working with Idaho National Laboratory. And the fun context setter here, they've tested actually 52 reactors in their history. Wow. Although the last of which was in 1977. So it's been a while, and we have a kind of old process, and they are aware of it.
Was there anybody that was a part of that last test that's still there, or is it all just kind of lore at this point?
It is sort of lore. It is sort of lore for the new reactors, but there definitely are staff who are there who, there are the Advanced Test Reactor, the ATR reactors where they test all the Navy fuel. That's been operational for a very long time. You can go tour it today, it's still operating. So there are definitely staff there who are very familiar with reactor operations and refueling. They also have a transient pulse test reactor, which is pretty amazing. It actually has an original core from the 1950s still running and operating. I forget what the numbers are, but it pulses into the several gigawatts range. So that there's some expertise there, but certainly there are not people there from the early 1970s anymore.
Okay, I have the Wall Street Journal article pulled up. I want to read some of the key points and just get your reaction. So the high level is that Trump signed executive orders to boost nuclear power industry, citing the need to overhaul regulations and fast-track licenses. A lot of this is driven by tech companies like Amazon and Google, who are driving demand for nuclear power to support AI systems and data centers. And there's an interesting wrinkle there where a lot of the hyperscalers made very aggressive ESG targets and climate pledges before they knew that they were going to need 50 gigawatts of capacity. And so now they're really, really pushing for clean energy. The executive order aims to shorten approval times for new reactors, but critics worry about the impact of safety. Now, I want to talk to you about that balance between speed and time to market and safety. I wouldn't trust myself to design a nuclear reactor and get it approved in a day, but it feels like we haven't had a new reactor design approved in way too long. And so we're probably on the too slow side of the curve, but where should we be? What is a reasonable amount of time to actually approve a new reactor design in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, probably on the shortest scale, it's got to be something like 6 months. Like if I use that context I said earlier, 52 reactors in up till just 1977, nuclear technology only existing since the mid 50s. That means they were doing more than 2 per year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So let's get back to that standard, right? Walk us through
clearly.
what just as a citizen, not as an entrepreneur or founder or executive, as a citizen, what type of tests do you actually think are the most valuable? Is this I need a physicist to run all the numbers in a spreadsheet and run simulations? Do we need to just fire this up in a place where even if it explodes, it's we've seen that it didn't explode, and so we've done real world testing? Is it a balance of those? What kind of testing do you think is best that can be executed at speed?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. The best is immediate testing and incremental testing.
Yeah.
And there's no reason that you necessarily need to go slower. You can regulate along with the speed with which you can do the design, the analysis, the procurement, the assembly of a reactor. If a company is willing to spend capital to take that financial risk, the goal is don't put fuel in unless you get an approval. Yeah. But there should be really zero barriers up until that point because there's no safety risk.
Yeah.
But then when you get to that point of like, okay, now there is risk. We are going to load fuel in. You do want someone to go and check your numbers, and you want them to dig deeply and thoroughly into what your reactor is and does and what the plan is. But the fact of the matter is when you load fuel, it's not anywhere near critical. You can make you can look at subcritical multiplication factor that will trigger little sensors that are effectively, it's something that sounds like a Geiger counter. We use fancier things today. We use fission chambers. We use boron line proportional counters. You can do the analysis to show that you will get many, many counts per second, even with a very small amount of fuel loaded. Like let's say you construct 1/6 of your core, you can already validate models. And yet you are ridiculously far away from being able to go critical.
Interesting.
You haven't even assembled the whole system, right?
Yeah. So the FDA has similar approval timelines for new pharmaceutical drugs, but the reason that it takes a long time to approve a new pharmaceutical drug in America, it makes more sense to me because if I'm going to take a drug, I kind of want to know, hey, is it going to have an effect on me in 30 years? So maybe I want to see a mouse model or a monkey model or a dog model or even human testing over a long period of time. And sure, there's some acceleration there. We don't need to wait a full lifetime to approve a new drug, but there is an element of time. Is there anything that's comparable to that in nuclear where the behavior of a system over a 2-year time period is different than a behavior of a system over a 2-hour period?
Yeah, I think the most similar thing would be the effect of neutron fluence inside of the core. So if you hit some parts of your system with neutrons, they will generally swell up. Metallic parts swell up and their thermal conductivity will usually go down, their density goes down, but the physical shape of them changes.
Sure. So you might have to test that in some special way to know what a 10-year lifespan looks like, right?
Yeah, but a lot of these materials have been tested, and there are these giant data handbooks that it's very predictable. So there's like the Nuclear Systems and Materials Handbook, which is like put together in the 1970s, actually just released finally through this lengthy process, but we had a ton of help. We went and recovered this great national asset, and it's now available for all reactor developers.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so they're pretty predictable effects. So I would say there's really, other than the effects of neutron fluence, there's nothing really that challenging. We plan to test right next year in the dome. That is a hermetic structure, totally sealed with its own radionuclide detection in it. And so you can partially fuel a core and you can do it in a hermetically sealed chamber at a facility where it's surrounded by scientists, right? And experimental hot cells and other test facilities that would allow you to see what any problem is, solve any problem. But we are using all well-known standard materials.
Got it.
Makes sense. Were you Is it funny to you that the news of Taiwan decommissioning their reactors hitting the same week that we're saying that we need more? Or is there something about Taiwan's as an island? I'd read something about there being a bunch of enough earthquake activity in the area that like there was some potential reasoning around that. But then we also had someone else on who said that we have solutions for that at this point. It's not a risk that should require shutting it down entirely.
I don't know that these things are linked, actually. I think I'm behind on the Taiwan reactor news. Those might have just been around for a long time, might be coincidental.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, I'm not implying that they're linked. I was saying more that it is kind of ironic in the sense that like, we have one country saying we're shutting these things down, meanwhile, and they're far less energy independent
and
than
Germany kind of doing the same thing. It feels like some countries are following the American nuclear playbook from 2 decades ago. And maybe they should be adopting the playbook from today, and they need.
Well, we just announced it today, and
so hopefully.
Yeah, how monumental is this for you? Were you like betting the company in some way on eventually getting an administration that would like introduce an EO and like try to bring about policy around this?
I think in a lot of ways. Absolutely. If you're working on something innovative, there's going to be regulatory gray areas. You have to know about those gray areas and manage the direction they're going in to make sure that the vision that you have is the way that the administration or the regulatory agencies go, so that you're not decoupled from reality, but you do have impact on that. And you actually, you can't write down rules ahead of time for something that's not invented yet. Right. So, but you do always take some risk in doing that. But I think it's actually pretty beautiful. Yeah. You lay out a vision, go like, imagine you have like a bunch of reactors. They're all built identical to one another. So they're super reliable. You deploy a whole fleet of them. They all stream data back continuously. We're in the modern world. We're in the information age. Why can't all that data just stream to the regulator? Why can't it be completely modernized? We've been talking about that for a while. And I think that has led to now that, along with other things that people have said, have led to these sort of events where an administration goes, okay, we're going to actually go and support this.
Yeah.
Right.
Last question from my side. Can you talk a little bit about how you see the market playing out? Obviously, there's some news about where we might be getting really big nuclear reactors at the 1 gigawatt scale. You're building at the 1 megawatt scale. Is there going to be a 10 megawatt company, a 100 megawatt company? Is it a smooth
curve?
Curve?
All the same company, and you just
or maybe they're bundled or broken down or scaled up or scaled down. Like how will this play out, and who will do what? I guess.
Yeah. Well, as a consumer, what you want is for there to be 2 or more companies at each scale.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, there will be something at the portable microreactor scale, maybe two companies there at least, and maybe that's 1 megawatt and smaller. If you are willing to put a reactor in the ground somewhere and pull the fuel out on that site and put it in a system, you can make a bigger reactor. I call it a microreactor, 10 megawatt scale. So you want 2 companies there. You want 2 at the 100 megawatt. You want 2 or more at the gigawatt also, because they're different areas. Need these amounts of power. So if you think about, and we never think about these places, there are remote places in the world. Like in Alaska, you have over 150 disconnected microreactor locations, or microgrid, locations that could use reactors. Canada has over 200 of these sort of areas, and these are coastal. Look at those land areas on the map. They're massive. They have a need for heat and for power. They're extremely isolated. There isn't an actual grid, so you need a small system, right, on those types of regions. And if you put in a 1 gigawatt reactor somewhere, you had better have a lot of big power lines to move that power to enough customers to use that, right? So on the 2 like extreme ends of the scale, there's like pretty obvious use cases. And then in the middle, it's like if you don't want to wait years to upgrade the grid, or it would be very expensive, like $1 million a mile or more up rates to power lines, then you might go, well, hey, we have this region where we're going to use 10 megawatts. We can put a 10 megawatt reactor. That's economical for us, right? Without overcomplicating it or having to add power lines extending across states.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for popping on. We'd love to have you back again and to go even deeper.
Congratulations on the overnight success. I know the job's not finished, but I like this for you guys.
Yeah, this is great. It's great news.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, one of the coolest things, they asked to reform the process that we're using at national laboratories to test reactors. That's going to be extremely critical to us staying on our schedule. We will achieve going critical next year because of a lot of things happening today.
That's great news. Thank you.
You're the
Thanks
man.
for joining, Doug. We'll talk to you soon.
Amazing milestone.
All right.
Cheers.